All right, I think we're live. We're back. We're back for it's been a little while since we've chatted. There things been we've been relatively busy, I guess, in the past few weeks, but it's good to be back.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it is. Nice to be back.
Yeah. Um
Lot has changed. Maybe
um
not really, but there have been some stuff revealed, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I guess recently there was the UK Games Day of sorts, so lots of stuff was revealed there. There was another Golden Demon. Um I guess
Mm,
in the
they
hobby world that was probably the biggest thing, at least Games Workshop stuff. They showed releases for a lot of different things. I guess
yeah.
on our end, we at least did some stuff model related. I finally finished painting the Mordheim Pit Fighter for the Smash Bash and submitted images of that model. So was pleased of that. I think the model turned out pretty well.
Yeah, no, Smash Bash is over, or at least submissions are. I don't know when all the judging and stuff will be, but just kind of casually looking through Instagram and stuff, it looks like there's a lot of cool entries and such, pretty
Yeah, no.
elaborate and extensive conversions and so forth.
They announced that they were hoping to have the judging and stuff done by the end of May, but I, based on the number of entries and stuff like that, I know it's going to take a long time to collect all that stuff together, and even just put it in a way that's easily visible for all the people that are going to be doing the judging. So,
Hmm.
I guess we just entered this what was the smallest category with just a single model. And this year the theme was brackish birth as kind of like a theme, and I feel our entry only vaguely. I mean, you could make arguments 2 and 4, but I guess in terms of this, what I guess your interpretation of what brackish birth even entails or means, like that could be up for debate too. So but my sort of liken to think that this pit fighter here was left for dead at the bottom of the ocean.
Chained to the bottom of the fucking ocean.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah, it
even
was
chained.
dead skin.
Yeah, and so the model itself, yeah, his I painted his skin to kind of look sick and unhealthy. And then there are a lot of fish like motifs and whatnot on his armor and stuff like that. So, and I guess with that in mind as well, the base model was sculpted for to support the Smash Bash anyway. So in some regards, this was sort of a thank you for all the people involved and to paint
Yeah,
the
it's neat
model.
to see that model that was sculpted kind of around it to be used, and it has all the fish sort of motifs, which are kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that also fits Mordheim relatively well too.
Hmm. Gave you an opportunity to get some Blood Meridian references in there,
Yeah,
or
I was pretty happy that
Necklace of Ears.
I finally sculpted a necklace of ears on a model, and I think it turned out pretty well. I feel it's a detail that you could pretty easily look over, not even notice. But if you notice it, I think I think it
And I
turned
thought
out.
it was kind of, um, or it seemed fitting. Uh, uh, Blood Meridian is total one of Totally Not Panicking's favorite novels.
Yeah, I mean it's
This month's for the month of May's book is Blood Meridian. It looks like the stream crashed, or did for a second. Maybe it's back now. Maybe.
that's interesting. It has not. It's
Well,
not
it
giving me
seems.
any indications that it's
I just
crashed.
saw the like. It well, maybe it's fine. It looks like it's still up everywhere. Well, that's cool that they're doing a book club thing.
What they had a thing to vote for possible books, and Roadside Picnic was on there basically because I suggest, or maybe Eric, you had a part in suggesting it too.
I feel that is a novel that you should read if you're into, like, not even sci-fi, but just cool literature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that, like, maybe I should reread it. I don't know.
I know,
I mean,
I
I would.
certainly want to reread Blood Meridian sometime to get a better sense of it, but I certainly remember there are certainly some scenes and such that have certainly stuck out to me and I still remember, which I feel is
Yeah, the book was fucking wild.
yeah, which I feel is something like yeah, I don't always have a very good recollection or memory of the stuff that I've read.
Yeah. No, agreed. And that Blood Meridian is not like a quick read.
Yeah, so I don't know that it's the perfect thing for. Oh, it's the month of May's read. So I don't. It would hard,
This
I
is
feel,
like
to
not
get
really
through
related
that
or
in a
in
month.
the theme anything like Blood Meridian, but I just read Fault in Our Stars, like that maybe John Green's second book.
Yeah.
Now that was a quick read. Like I
Okay.
literally read it in like I don't know 5 days or something.
Whoa.
How many pages was it?
Like I don't know,
Whereabouts?
330 or something, not that
Yeah.
long. And it's like it's just really quick and easy to read. It's not
Yeah.
there's not like verbose language or like I mean admittedly it's somewhat philosophical because John Green is a thoughtful
Mm-hmm.
person, but yeah, but it was good. But yeah, easy read. I mean I'm in the process of reading that Lionel Johnson book. I got like I'm like 70% of the way through it, and then just in the process, it's like I should read Fault in Our Stars. But I have to
Yeah.
get back to the Lionel Johnson book. I don't know. I guess maybe we haven't talked about that here.
We probably haven't because we haven't had our
Yeah.
stream for maybe even the
But
past 2
Lionel
weeks.
Johnson, the model was released along with the newer Arcs of Omen book that has his rules and some of the stuff he's doing now, how he showed up and fought Angron and killed him.
Yeah.
But they released at the same time released like a novel about that stuff, like before the Arcs of Omen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been reading it. I'm like 60-70% of the way through, and it's an okay read. Kind of reminds me. It sort of seems like fan fiction though. Like not that it's poorly written, and I think a little bit it has to do with it. It's almost like eroding away or expanding upon like the whole thing about the Fallen and like
Mm-hmm.
now that Lionel Johnson's back, what's he gonna do with them? What are the Dark Angels, like the modern version? Like how are they gonna reckon with that? And I don't know. At times it seems very small world at times.
Yeah, okay.
Just like people show up, like the lion shows up and meets the fallen and is like they have like a brief conversation and everything's good.
Despite it's
And
been like
10,000 years or
10,000
something.
years of
Just
like
like
extreme hatred, where extreme
Lionel
hatred and
Johnson, like
extreme prejudice.
you attacked us on Caliban. no, you attacked us.
Oof.
Okay, you're
Oof.
right. You're probably right. It just
Oof.
there are all these big questions and things, and they just all get wrapped up so easily.
Yeah, okay.
I it seems like something that would have been really hard to do regardless, and it's not done poorly or anything, but
Mhm.
I guess to me it's a little bit like a thing like the Horus Heresy, all that doing that would be kind of hard to do it justice, but I think they managed to do it in a bunch of cases. I think this isn't quite as swimming a success,
Okay.
but I feel I can't imagine this got the same support that like the
Yeah.
Horus Heresy did, where like all these authors got together in various roundtable meetings and chatted
Mhm.
about stuff, and some of the main lore people from Games Workshop chatted and like showed like this is the stuff that's been established and like back and forth conversations and stuff to try to really hash out what should happen and how best
Yeah.
to deal with this. Like I imagine it's just like Mike Brooks, the author, just like got a call one day, like, we're
We
bringing
really need
Lionel
this.
Johnson back. We need a novel about him coming back. Would you write that? You have like 5 months or something. And this is just pure speculation, but I
Yeah.
feel I really doubt they got that much support.
Yeah, it would certainly wouldn't surprise me. And they probably were
But
also
it's
given
okay.
a very strict page limit as well, so there's not really even time to
No,
thoughtfully.
I haven't finished it yet either. But I've sort of gotten the impression from reading it and little I've read around online. I don't think anything is really resolved.
Okay.
Nothing like they don't
Mhm.
um like really tell you really how he came back, or they don't really answer a lot of the questions that
Yeah.
people would be interested in.
Yeah.
But the books, it's okay. Um the Fallen, it seems sort of stupid.
That's fair. I like that.
It's because there's some of the Fallen are like Lionel Johnson gets like, hey, you be an ambassador for me and go out and find other Fallen, like follow rumors of them, and like it's
Okay.
just so, well, yeah, small world. Like I needed to find, they think a Fallen could be here, so I went to the biggest city in the biggest cathedral there, and I found some Fallen markings, and
Oof.
then I followed them and found the other fallen markings. And then following that, I found a house that had 4 fallen space marines in it. One had a plasma gun, the other had a
Oh
power
god.
sword. Like,
That's awful. That
I mean, it's not quite as bad as I'm
Yeah, but it
suggesting it, but it's still basically that. It just seems so. eh, Uh, yeah, not that it's not cool.
well, yeah, and we've talked about this before a little bit, but sort of the notion that for some of the stuff that's been in the lore and been kind of shrouded in mystery for as long as it is, like the Grey Knights and some of that stuff, it can really having a lot of that stuff and really delving deeply into it can kind of go a really long way in demystifying and kind of ruining what
Yeah.
what I feel
Well,
a
because
lot of people found was cool.
like Lionel Johnson like shows up in some places and helps take back some planets or cities, and like
hmm
everyone knows who he is, and like that just doesn't seem
how would they know who he was? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think most Imperial worlds after all this time like actually know the Primarchs well. Or
I
it just
feel like some of the Inquisitor. Or so I know.
I
I
mean, I feel like
remember.
some of them could know, like, because, maybe it's sort of a mythology type thing that makes, like, emperors godlike sons, and so, I mean, it could be like this, but it still, again, gets back to what I keep saying about seemingly kind of small world, that
Yeah.
everything is just so nice and neat. And there's a scene in it where it's like basically it seems like someone wrote a fan fiction of like a Battlefleet Gothic game they played,
Whoa.
and that I don't know. I think is sort of minimalizing the effort. And it was okay. It was fine, but in some sense, like I'm not reading this book to read about naval warfare. Like,
Well, I guess I think based
why
on
is it in
most.
there?
Yeah, most of what you're saying.
Particularly when it's not. It doesn't seem like that well researched. It doesn't seem like a Dan Abnett type thing that, like, you know what, I want to write a book about Titans, so I'm gonna really get in there and come up with some interesting things to add to this. It's just,
Yeah. Get it done.
it just seems a bit like filler.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's okay,
Yeah.
and I'll see how it turns out. But I'm pretty sure it like ends with like Dante and the Blood Angels showing up and finding him or something.
Oof.
Which, I mean, it seems like, oh, that's interesting. Like, how will they react to that? But it'll probably
It
be
won't be interesting at all.
really, it'll probably be just kind of ho hum. Well,
Like, hey
yeah.
guys.
So I don't know. It's fine, but like, in some sense, it seems a lot like I haven't really read a lot of the lore books, like Arcs of Omen books or whatever, but we've talked years back about like the Fall Acadia stuff and how
Oof.
it just wasn't very good. It it seems
Yeah.
a bit like that. Not nearly as bad as that, but it still seems like kind of subpar GW writing. Like, we have a deadline, we really need to get this out. We just want to hit these plot beats, and this is where it has to be at the end of the book. Like, we need it in a month or something.
Yeah, I sort of feel like it was the type of thing. The only reason it was being written was just to coincide with the release of this model, and they wanted other stuff to sell.
Yeah, but all right, so we can move on. We don't need to keep talking about this.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of stuff that I've been working on, yeah, I finished painting the pit fighter, so that's cool. And right, having finished that, I've already started working on painting the next model, which this at the end of this month, that's the deadline for the next Olden Demon painting competition, where for the past few years now, there's been an Instagram painting challenge encouraging people to go and paint old hammer miniatures and complete with the kind of the green bases and stuff like that. So, I know I've talked a little bit before about I went and converted one of the first models we ever got, one of the old Rattling snipers, and this, I guess, one of the reasons I converted the Rattling sniper was I thought it would be interesting to paint, and I was pretty sure this Olden Demon painting competition would come back, and it would be a good excuse to paint said model. So I'm only really at the very beginning of the whole process, but I started working on their simple base, and the model's primed and painted black, so
Yeah, that's exciting. I feel it's a good excuse to paint that model. Like I have an Eldar Ranger that Big Boss Red Skull gifted
Hmm.
to us along with some other old Hammer Eldar a long time ago, and I feel
Yeah.
haven't done anything with them, but like this seems like a good opportunity. So I have the model primed and base coated black. So one of these days I just have to start and get into it.
Yeah. This the little sniper here is pretty interesting. It's so I think it's going to be an interesting model to paint, mostly because of how small the model is. There's really not there's not a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
surface area or anything to work on. Um and I guess I'm a little uncertain of how I want to paint certain things and the colors and stuff that I want to use. Like I guess a lot of the model's body is covered in what look to be like little leather pouches and stuff, so I'll paint them some leather color, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're wearing sort of like a little flak jacket vest or whatnot. So it's kind of like a quilted looking flak armor. And then they have
Like
like
the
a little
quilted
dagger and
leather
stuff.
from the model you just painted.
Sorry, repeat that.
Like the quilted leather, like the model you recently
Oh,
painted.
yeah, sort of. It has kind of the little diamond pattern, but it doesn't have like the little metal studs and stuff. Like you can vaguely see it. He has a little kind of a skirt from the
Mm-hmm.
vest over his legs.
Yeah, I mean that's exciting, and it's kind of nice that the model is small.
Yeah, I think it'll be sort of fun when I'm painting certain things. I will be very focused on just painting that one thing, which that's typically how I go about painting things. I tend not to like, I'm gonna paint all the leather on the model now. I tend to choose one thing and just paint that. So in this case, like I
Mm-hmm.
would paint the leather on his boot, and then maybe the leather on the pouches I would paint in a slightly different way to
Yeah.
give it a little more visual interest and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the model also, you can still see most of their face. Like I'll have to paint the eyes, and looking at the model, the eyes are pretty well sculpted in there, and they're relatively large. So I think they'll be pretty straightforward to paint, more so than some models.
Yeah, well that's good. Oh, speaking about painting, like they revealed all the Golden Demon winners for the
They did. There were a lot of really cool entries.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we could talk about them briefly. I don't know. Not like well, yeah, like you mentioned, Adam, like there's lots of like really, really nice looking stuff. Like I am
Yeah,
always quite impressed with things, but I feel the thing that I thought was the coolest thing was that the duel section, Mateo, he he won gold for that, which he has an Instagram account called like with Hagen Picks and Nick
fixing it
or
or something along those lines. Yeah.
that he's like a super super talented sculptor and painter, and it was really cool to see them like really try to push their skills and like paint really well, and it's based off like an old piece of artwork that I feel is fairly iconic.
Yeah, the little
Like
duel of the knight fighting this like little dragon beast thing. Yeah, it's
dragon,
amazing.
like all its scales and stuff, look amazing.
Yeah, the
He
thing that
also on the like, or continue.
I was gonna say the thing that like I find most impressive is the beast itself. There's so much like detail and interesting textures and stuff and scales and whatnot, even on like its tail that were clearly just painted on. And then all the other scales, like it just looks so nice.
His Instagram sort of logo is on the little tombstone like thing in the front. Just
Yeah, that's fucking great. Yeah.
Like it just looks so nice. And in some sense, it's funny that there's this model to look at, and they recently, I think for one of the reveals, actually showed the new Cities of Sigmar stuff that's coming out. They showed some horse like
Knights and
for
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
and like, man, they aren't this cool.
No, they're not.
Like they look kind of cool and interesting, but this is so much less flashy. But then I don't know, it just looks like a classic knight, like
Yeah,
questing
it
knight
hits
thing.
all the right notes. It sort of going back to the old world that everyone knew and loved. There are some like visual flares here and there, but nothing so over the top that it doesn't fit. Like, yeah, I think it like perfect. Yeah, just so nice. But I will say, just looking at all the different entries, the skill level of the painters and stuff that are now entering, it is just astronomically high. Like a weekend or two, I was looking through some old White Dwarf magazines of like winning entries and stuff, and they just are nowhere close to competing with like literally any of the stuff that you see now. I mean, that's not true with everything, but certainly like it.
Yeah, I feel just in a general sense, the level of quality has just continued to go up and up.
Yeah, like I feel
Like the one the Blood Bowl stuff like looks so good. That one bronze.
yeah, they look phenomenal. There's so much texture and stuff being painted into the model, so much like volumetric lighting and other stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff's pretty amazing.
I feel it could certainly do a good job of like inspiring you, but it could also sort of I feel just discourage you from even trying.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I feel with your new pit fighter guy is like pretty great.
Yeah, like I was happy with it, but I sort of every time I look at it, I almost think of things like, man, I should have done this a lot better. I could have done this or that, and but I guess that's sort of how things are.
That's painting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Be cool someday if you tried to enter something again. I mean, I could see entering something at some point too, at like Adepticon or whatnot. I mean, I'm like just nowhere close to this skill level or your skill level, but it still seems like it could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the future, I will probably enter stuff, but I don't I was actually even talking with Mateo. He was showing me work in progress pictures of the model, telling me he wasn't sure he was going to be able to finish it in time for the competition and stuff. And he and I were sort of talking about the notion, or he brought up that he thought he himself and like me, this wasn't really our type of like hobby in painting. We were more into painting nice game pieces, and I think that's largely true.
This was his first time entering Golden Demon. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So cool. I was pretty chuffed to see.
Yeah, no,
if
I
he
was
got
so
gold
excited.
with that.
I was so excited. I was diligently looking on Instagram trying to see if anyone took pictures of his model, because I was hoping that he was able to finish the model and enter it. I figured he probably would, but
Yeah, that's
yeah.
super cool. I mean, I guess he's just so talented with his sculpting and composition and painting and stuff that it doesn't surprise me. But with that said, there are just so many incredible entries, and just the way Golden Demon is, it's like a best of 3 type thing that
Yeah.
it's a competition that is bound to disappoint virtually everyone.
I think it's
Yeah,
also a
and
thing, since like the quality of so many of the entries are so high. I sort of assume they have some scoring criteria where I've heard some people say like they're like looking for what they deem to be mistakes, and like
to
they're
just
using
take
that
things
to
out. Yeah.
choose one thing over another. So like,
And to just like take stuff out of the running, which is kind of
yeah, so
sad.
like you just never know. And I know me going forward, I think I will probably enter competitions like this a little bit, but I doubt as to whether I will decide I am going to paint this model solely for this
Yeah, it's tough
competition.
because that it's just not our focus. I mean, as
Yeah, I
the
mean, I'll
blog says.
continue to convert and paint models to the best of my abilities and stuff, and try and push my skills with different things, trying new techniques and stuff, but I am not going to decide I'm going to start working on my Golden Demon entry and then spend like 3 months or something painting and perfecting something like that. I'm just not going to do that. And which is fine. I mean, you can do whatever you want, and like I'm glad there are people that are spending so much time. Like there's certainly the little duels and battle scenes and dioramas. What people are coming up with and doing for those are so much more, in general, I feel, are so much more elaborate and more interesting than what we were seeing. Like, look at this, the Young Bloods category. Like, good lord. Like, the gold winner, Daniel Swart. Like, that is
Yeah,
a
that
damn
kid's
good looking
insane.
model.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I feel some of these Young Blood entries could have won the Slayer Sword like 15 years ago. Like, with what, like, man, they're good.
That being said, Adam, every time I look back at your pictures of your Blood Bowl model that won the bronze in open category, it looks really nice.
Yeah, it's still a pretty great model.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel it's easy to psych yourself out about stuff, and I think I would tell anyone I think I would encourage anyone to certainly try and enter. Like, I think it's a good experience, and it's good to
Darren
try and,
Latham won something.
yeah, it's good to try and push yourself to do new things and stuff, but certainly don't go in expecting anything or with your hopes held too high. Go into it with as a learning experience, and try
What's
and
I feel that's the shit thing about it compared to other competitions. Like, it isn't much of a learning experience because the
Well,
judges
I
don't
think
tell you anything.
Well, yeah, I don't think they really do anymore. But I think now with Instagram and stuff like that, many of like the really good technical painters and stuff, more people know of them. And talking with Mateo, for instance, on Instagram, he was saying he just had a really great experience being able to talk to so many of the painters he knew of and like just
Yeah, I
hold
feel
and
that
look at their
that's a good
models in person. So I think
yeah.
I would certainly recommend if you're entering to really seek out and try and just talk with other
Mhm.
really talented painters and stuff there. And I think there you could learn a lot. And even seeing some of the stuff in person would probably help, could help you out in that
Yeah,
sense too. So,
agreed. So I think it's still worthwhile. Well,
yeah.
with all this said, do we want to move in to talk about some of the model reveals?
Yeah, I guess there were a lot of things revealed, weren't there?
I feel we should start with the kill team stuff, which was like the last reveal, but I feel is perhaps the most interesting from
Oh, let me try and find it.
like sort of our Inc. 28 side of things. But there certainly are a lot of like some more Space Marine stuff and a bunch of new Tyranids and all that. But I could see it being somewhat of a pain to find because it's Games Workshop. But I guess the
I
kill
found
team,
it.
all the Gallo Dark stuff, like that series of kill team stuff, is finally ended. And before they start the next series of stuff, they have this a kill team thing that I think this is their first effort at kind of adding a campaign type thing to it. And this is with the setting of kind of an Inquisition kill team retinue agents type thing,
Yeah, I mean it says the
forging
box comes with
heretics.
40 miniatures.
So it seems interesting, but it seems like it's a thing. They just give you a lot of cultists and stuff
Well, do
and
they also
things.
give you this plastic Scion models?
Yeah, they give you the Imperial side as I think 5. So maybe I don't know, maybe it's more than 5. I'm not sure, but a bunch of the old Scions that look pretty shitty, not the nicer Kasserkin,
I feel that
as
is
well
one of
as
the big things that I feel is that's
5
bad.
Sisters of Silence.
Like those Scions
Actually,
really scream to me that they're just trying to get rid of them because no one wants to buy them anymore.
and they have all the newer Chaos Cultists, but not the cooler ones. Like there were the
They
one kill
look,
team ones.
yeah, I feel these Chaos Cultists, they look okay. They're not awful, but they're not.
Great. I wish so honestly this box would be a lot more appealing if these cultists were replaced with the cultists that were released in an earlier version of Kill Team that are more like the Blackstone Fortress, more like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imperial Guard, and replace the Scions with the Kasserkin. But I guess maybe people would have complained that like we already got this in Kill Team. But honestly, I doubt anyone would complain because they're just better models.
Yeah.
Um,
But I guess what you would be most excited about is the in the newer Inquisitor models.
I guess I'm still kind of excited to see the rules, like if they introduce stuff like a somewhat flexible system to make interesting like little Inquisition kill teams, and like maybe this would be a fun thing to use to play 28 type games because I think kill
mhm.
team the game as a whole could be okay for it. Like it's a
Yeah.
bit more granular, but so I'm kind of excited about
Well, look
that.
at the cover. The cover to the game or the set. I really wish the models looked more like this, mainly in the terms of their weapons. Like, they're still, the pistols and stuff are oversized, but like on the side of the game, there's the one person with the eye patch. They're holding like a drum-fed auto pistol. Like, if it was sized like that, it would look so much better. And the same thing's true about the Inquisitor's bolt pistol and plasma pistol. So all that being said, I think in general, the models look pretty good. They're much more reserved than I would typically expect, and even their oversized weapons are still a little more reserved than what they typically do. And their poses, honestly, are mostly very believable too.
Yeah, I feel there'll be a good basis for people to convert cooler stuff, but they're still better than I anticipated. But giving
Yeah.
smaller weapons would help. It is interesting though. I think they're enough to build like 7 models, but like it can build up to 9, or like there are 9 variants. Like 4 of the models are not really
Also,
multi-part, but and
here's
they
this
most
one
of
of
the
Sergeant Stone or whatever. To me, it looks like the two models in this picture here, they both have the same legs.
legs, yeah.
Um,
I think
Or is it just
most of the paired models they have the one that both variants in the same picture.
oh,
is
okay.
it just me? But I feel like
Yeah, you're
these
right.
models, the anatomy is better than a lot of other GW models, like particularly Sergeant Stone and stuff. He doesn't look like his torso's too short and his legs are really kind of
Yeah,
short and
I think they're
big.
just better.
Well, they are
And
just better. Also, if you think back at the one of the really old Kill Team sets with the Gellerpox stuff, and they had like a Death Cult assassin, someone with a chain gun, all that stuff. That, if you compare all of those models to other models, they don't really look like they're in the same scale. They look more like this. So whoever whoever was designing that stuff, this is so much closer to what I would like to see
I was actually
moving
talking
forward.
to Herr Sorbeck on Instagram. He actually notified me of this reveal before it was even up on GW, and
Mm-hmm.
he mentioned that he thinks they were probably due to Maxime Corbel, that sculptor that has done a bunch of stuff in the past, like conversions and whatnot, and like really kind of a fan of like the Inquisitor type stuff, and I could
Mm-hmm.
see that.
Yeah.
But maybe it was in Rust We Trust. People were kind of chatting about the models,
Mm-hmm.
and someone said the not the Sergeant Stone, but the other variant of that with like the hand flamer and the
Mm-hmm.
ganger head, that one was their least favorite because it looked just kind of thrown together. Put an Orlok head on there, and well, I
I
see that.
wish the Orlok heads looked that
Yeah,
good.
yeah, that's where I was going with it. Well, I can see that to a point. It's a lot better than an Orlok
Well,
model.
like, if the Orlok models looked anything like this, they'd be cool. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
just look at the muscles on those arms, and like their legs actually have like knees and points that could bend. Like, they're not even close. This is
so, and I guess to me
yeah.
that and so sort of speaks to like I guess how I look at models is different from a lot, perhaps a lot. Like sure, it's not the most interesting model, and true, it's maybe a little bit overdone with some just details that hardly matter. Like why is that Vox grill thing there and the big eye, like, and even the grenade, like that's sort of extraneous detail that doesn't add a whole lot. But at least to me, and the weapons are too big, obviously, but still, like the core anatomy and figure there is good. And I think when most Games Workshop models never get close to that, I call this a win.
This is,
Like,
yeah, I would call this a huge win. And
like
it's
you could
also to the point, like, if you look at the two models with, like, in the cloaks and whatnot, one's holding two daggers. This is also, I feel, a more believable human anatomy as well. Like, their legs aren't super long. Their
'cause I
heads aren't
feel
way
like
too
a lot of
small.
these, it is true. Like a lot of people are into the Ink 28 scene. Could probably kit bash something that looks somewhat similar to these, and like that's neat and that's resourceful, but they're not gonna in most cases look as good as this solely because they're taking weirdly proportioned all kits and trying to cram them together.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the
I
big
think it's
takeaway.
nice that all of these together seem to be somewhat similar in scale, better proportioned,
Hmm.
and like I just feel they will be a wonderful base to have people go wild and convert them a little bit and make them even better. And I think
Yeah.
that to me that's why these models are cool. Not because people are just going to build them as is, and even if they do, that they're still look pretty cool. But I think they just are a much better basis
Hmm.
for creating cool Grim models.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's neat to see Sergeant Stone. Honestly, a better version of Sergeant Stone because the old Ink 54 millimeter model wasn't very
Wasn't
good.
that good? Yeah.
But the artwork for him was cool and all that. And the guy with the
Yeah.
shotguns, I think he's cool.
No, the guy with the shotgun looks pretty
And the
good.
shotgun isn't even that terrible looking. Like it's smaller than
Yeah,
most
it's
GW
okay.
shotguns. It's interesting because I could see some people not liking them, just feeling they do look a little bit ho hum and reserved. But ultimately, I think that's what's cool about them. The double handed chain sword is pretty stupid looking, but that's also one of the dual builds that builds the like
Hmm.
bolt pistol, plasma pistol model. But I wish the bolt pistol, plasma pistol woman was more like the artwork. Like the pistols are so dumb and big, and she has like a weird backpack set of holsters on her back to fit the pistols, and it's just huge. It takes up her entire back,
That's when you
and
know something's
they
wrong with
still
the
wouldn't fit.
pistols. Yeah, and
They
they
still
still wouldn't
probably
fit.
wouldn't fit in there, but it's just like, wouldn't you think when you're trying to do those logistics, like, oh, it will be better if we can get their holsters in there, and like they literally are bigger than the model's back. Doesn't that tell you something that, you know what? Maybe I should just go back to the drawing board, or honestly, just go back to ZBrush or whatever they were designed on and make them a little smaller. Like the silhouette will still be there. Everyone
Yeah.
knows what it is. Like GW is so into like, oh, and we need that classic silhouette. Like, yeah, you can still have that,
Yeah, it'll still be
but they
very
don't.
noticeable.
So I don't know. But still, it comes back to like you could still build that model and just convert smaller machine pistols and stuff and have a much cooler model. So that's nice.
I will
But
say they also remade the one classic scribe model that
that
I
is
think people
fucking
still
cool.
use, that is good, and
The
they
old
look pretty
Scribe
good.
is very good. It's one of the better ones from that era of. But
And
the
they
new
finally
ones
made a
seemed great.
new a gun servitor, and I think this is probably the nicest looking one, and a lot of that has to do with their anatomy. It's just a little, things are a little sleeker, their feet
But
are a little smaller.
it's
um
funny how these these models, these seven or so models, are very at odds. Health has kind of the larger than life proportions and heroic scaling and such that GW often does, which ultimately is why I wish the Scions were the Kasarkin and the cultists were like the chaos
only thing-
cultist sort that were released.
The reason I could say like maybe they didn't do that, I wouldn't be surprised if those newer Kasarkin models are just so much larger than these that they didn't think they looked right.
That could be. That could be true. Yeah, that's fair. But they're cool. Like, it will be interesting to see what type of terrain's in there. Do you think it's just more Gallowdark shit? Probably.
Can you tell
But-
from? Okay, you
Maybe
can't
some
really
of the video
tell from that.
gave some sense of that. But it seems something like I'll be interested to see what the rules are. I suspect they'll be somewhat like feel let down about them, like because that's kind of what GW is good at. But I'm still interested to see it. But
Well, to me, it seems like you're
ultimate-
playing Kill Team with a larger number of models, sort of. Maybe that's not
I
true.
suspect. My guess is it's just like there's a campaign setting. And it's
in
almost
certain
like
games,
a
you
board
have
game type thing that they're saying like, oh, one's the Inquisitor retinue, and like in mission 2, you get some scions and they come with you, and then you find the cultists first, but then they start to mutate to like, I don't know. My
Yeah.
guess is it's like you're never using all of that stuff, but it just escalates, which I mean could be cool. I
Yeah.
like Kill Team as a whole. Admittedly, I only played I think one game of it. But if this has a nice system to kind of create some interesting
Mhm.
like Inquisition kill teams that have flexibility and like the weapons and stuff they have, like that would be cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
so
would be
I'm
neat
looking
if
forward to hearing
the
more
game
about it.
comes with a variety of terrain, because that could make it worthwhile. But
Yeah. No, yeah, I think I'm
I
looking
think this
forward
was
to
the
it.
most surprising
Mhm.
release and the thing I'm probably most excited about.
I agree. You're not excited for the new Space Marine Heroes set?
I mean, yeah, they did announce one of the blind box Space Marine hero things, and they're finally Primaris, so they do look better than the previous ones.
Yeah, the
previous
fact that their
heroes.
Primaris is better because they
Yeah.
just look much better, but I feel most of the models aren't really, they're not really something you'd get too excited about. And I know if you buy a whole box of them, you get one of every model and a duplicate of one of the dudes with the bolters.
Mm,
Games Workshop commented on that on
okay.
Instagram.
Okay.
One of the things that disappointed me the most was for Age of Sigmar, they decided they were going to do some more orc stuff, and I don't even know what it's called. It's like a bunch of
The big
orcs
boar
riding a
grunta.
big boar. The Maw Grunta. I feel it's pretty awful.
Hey, so Stefan here from Germany must just made it onto our stream saying from YouTube. They're asking what we think about the teased Mark III armor.
We can
does
go
seem
and
like
talk
something we
about
should
that.
chat about.
What's fine?
Yeah, so there was the Horus Heresy had some reveals. Like surprisingly, there was a reveal of they're making a plastic Knight Lancer, which is kind of cool because
Yeah.
the resin models sort of suck. But
Is it?
they have a big. It should be in the plastic assault marine thing. It's in there. But they have kind of a roadmap of stuff, and they kind of suggested that Mark III armor was coming down the line, and they had a single kind of teaser picture of sort of like a battle scene with maybe a predator in the background or something, and some Marines. And they're very clearly Mark III Marines, but they're not the Forge World resins
No.
or the plastic ones from the Burning of Prospero or whatever that game.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty clear that these are what the new models will look like. It's only like a couple pictures of the Marines with some bolters or some. Maybe I was wrong with where it is. I thought it was with the Assault Marine thing.
It is.
Okay.
And
But I was kind of excited to hear about that they would make some Mark III Marines because the Mark VI ones are overall pretty good despite their gigantic Mega Man shins. But I feel these Mark III ones, my first impression, having not seen that much, that they look like a big disappointment to me.
I really don't like them.
I feel
They're
first of
all
all
legs.
they're all legs, and the legs are all super wide. I mean, maybe not all, but certainly the three in the front that you see are all like the widest, like squatting stance imaginable.
Well, you can
They're
see one in the
Phobos.
back that's walking forward that looks like a very clumsy walk, and part of that is because their feet are just so big. They there wouldn't be any room to even
But
articulate that foot.
I
So
think you mentioned the thing that stands out most is other than the bad looking poses is that their just legs are so big and tall, but then the head it's just like the head's there. Like it seems like there's no torso and chest. It's just like a chest with a head. It appears as if there's like no neck, no anything. It's just big long legs.
they've
And
also what was the name of that bolter? Is that
the Phobos pattern bolter
they
looks like
ruined
they
it?
made him dumber
Yeah,
looking.
they ruined them. They look now like they're shooting soda cans or something. Like the bore of the barrel is fatter and
Because
dumber
like
looking. You
I
can
think the
see the
Phobos,
individual shells in the magazines, and they're bigger than ever. Like, it looks awful.
because to me the Phobos pattern bolters were like the coolest bolters.
Or they were certainly one of the cooler ones. They had kind of the classic um, second edition look, updated a little bit. And this, I sort of feel it took that design and then they said, like, oh, remember when we made those new Plague Marines a few years ago and made really stupid looking variants of those bolters with really big bores, like twice the size of the old ones? Like, what if we did that again here? And I really
Yeah,
don't like that.
I'm just it upsets me a lot to see how wonky and like they literally I think look worse than the resins and the plastics. Like how could that have happened?
They
Par-
look a lot worse than the old plastics. Like, I
Particularly
think a
when
lot worse.
like they made they actually made some strides to make the Mark 6 models like look pretty okay. Like they're still a bit wonky, but not too
Also, the
bad.
Mark 6 Marines, I think, were in some regards were almost the start of the problem. Wow, the Mark 6 Marines, and I assume these models here, they have sculpted butts. So that huge improvement. Like, that's very good. But they went way too far overboard with the legs and making the like shin armor so big and making their feet so big that it, I think, really limits what they can do with the posing. And also,
Well, they have the metal loincloth too that probably because
yeah,
they didn't know how to work with that, so they have to have their legs wide apart almost. I just you can see
yeah,
the one in the back with the bear helmet. Like look like it.
With the bare head, no helmet, you mean?
There's literally the model is only legs. It's like legs with a head on top. It looks to me like it's just so bad. Like
Yeah,
the
you would
helmets.
you would have to add some spacers and stuff to the
But like,
torso.
but I think the damage is done. Like that would make it look better. But the legs
Hmm.
are still like a V. Like they're still so wide. Like I don't think they can be saved. Or it's like not worth it.
And
Like
then
the
it
helmets
also
look
like
kind
I
of
honestly
fun.
I do like their helmets, but based on all the other stuff, the helmets just look way too small and to the point where I don't think I would want to use them on anything.
Yeah, I don't. It just God,
I
what a
and
disappointment.
the
Because I feel
bolters
the
are horrible.
Mark III is like it's like one of my
Yeah,
favorite armor types. So
it's a
I
huge shame.
Was that the only picture they have?
I think
yeah,
so.
because it's happening in like autumn or something that when they're saying they're gonna come out. They also had pictures of some assault marines, which they look kind of fun. And I'm glad they're finally releasing some other like troop choices for the Horus Heresy. Like
Also,
they're
if you look at these assault marines here, just look at how it's a little better with the assault marines because you sort of imagine they want to have really heavy boots where they can crash into stuff, sort of. But
hmm
just look at the one running, how big and fat their feet are. Like, there's not even any room to see where articulation and stuff could be. Like, they literally look like Mega Man feet that I think we've talked about. It just doesn't
yeah.
work. So,
I
that
think
being
they're
said, I
just too
mostly like these.
slavishly sticking to the old Jess Goodwin designs, which I mean, I like the design, Jess Goodwin designs, but I feel, well, it goes back to some of the stuff we were saying. Like, they could have made them slightly different and more believable and still have the basic silhouette. Like, they
Hmm.
don't have to completely remove the big feet, but they also didn't have to go this hard.
Yeah, well, I think they even commented for the Mark 6 Marines when they were first released how they were trying to keep the big flared shin armor from the original Rogue Trader Marines. And I mean that's fine, but they've always kept that in every Space Marine release. So like they didn't need to go even further into
Yeah.
that. I feel.
I don't know. So in some sense, it almost. Ultimately, I was pretty disappointed by it, and it almost seems like it's spelling the beginning of the end. Like they can do a good job at making plastic versions of tanks and stuff that were already good looking, but the moment they have to branch out from that, it's like B team comes in and just bumbles it. Or that's the way it's
Well, yeah, I
feeling
mean
to
they're
me.
they're continuing to release
There's
plastic
some
tanks and stuff.
So that's cool. They released some pictures of two character models, like a Sons of Horus dude and a Dorn Imperial Fist Terminator. are are comically bad looking.
I
And
Wow, I think the what's his name? Baron Ashoradon or whatever, the Sons of Horus dude. He I sort of like the model. It has a lot of the wonky Rogue Trader stuff, which it reminds me of Rogue Trader and it makes me smile, but it's not a great model.
it seems sculpted fairly well, but the pose is bad and like it's the better of the two. The Terminator
The
looks
Terminator one I thought looked awful.
it has all the hallmarks of ridiculous shit looking Terminator with too many god awful details.
Well, I feel his pose is really weak, and then I can't help but think it looks like the head is not in the right spot.
I
But
mean,
it's
it's
hard to
not.
tell. It's hard to tell with how bulky everything is. But, I mean, if this model was just standing up straight, I could accept it a lot better. But here, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of those shitty looking obliterators that were the Chaos Obliterators that were released like 20 years ago or something. They're these really big metal
Yeah.
models that just didn't work very well. This is what that looks like.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great. Hey, Wardstone, nice to have you here too. Wow, raid armor. Yeah, I hear that. But yeah, so
Oh,
the
that's
Horus
actually a
Heresy
good way
stuff,
to put it. It does, yeah.
Horus Heresy stuff was a disappointment. Other than
The
like the
plastic
Knight
Lancer's
Lancer
cool.
is cool, like because the Knight Lancer is always a cool model, but having to assemble anything in resin, particularly that size, would be awful. So nice to not have it in resin. Um,
Well, I know some people would. I know I've certainly heard some people online sort of complaining about a lot of the plastic Horus Heresy tanks and stuff because, and the chief complaint is they take longer to assemble than the resin counterparts.
wow. I mean, I guess if you slap the resin together without much care in the world,
Yeah, I
maybe
mean, I
that's
feel
true.
in my experience, like maybe that's even true, but in all my experience with resin vehicles, they a lot of them look pretty good, but then you run into like, oh shit, the whole corner of this was miscast. I now have to completely resculpt this. Or oh
Yeah.
shit, this joint or whatever was sunken in further than it should have been. Like, what do? I guess do I have to saw it off and replace it and like it's there's just
It's
so much baggage with resin that is not easy to fix. And I guess you could just glue it together and say it's fine and it'll mostly look fine. And you might not notice it unless you're really looking at it, but that never sat very well with me. So
that's not the type of
yeah, I
assembly
would much
process I'm
rather
looking for.
have the plastic thing that while plastic can sometimes have bad mold lines and stuff like that, it's not going to be miscast.
It's going to assemble properly. You don't have to get out the heat gun.
Yeah. So I think based on all of that, I'm much happier with this.
Mm-hmm.
Though I
Agreed.
don't see how we would ever get one, but I think there is
Yeah.
higher probability that we might sometime just because you could actually assemble it and it would be
Mm-hmm.
okay. It'll also be lighter as well, so it
Yeah.
won't over time start to like sag and stuff like that. So that is good.
Yeah, it's nice.
We could at least briefly talk about the the Nurgle Knight, or what do they even call him? Is he?
One of the Dawnbringers or something. There's basically someone made a new version of Jess Goodwin's fairly old Nurgle Lord on a
Like a
dead looking
rotten
horse,
chaos horse.
which was I always really liked the model, the little crow and whatnot.
I feel this model looks good. I sort of feel there are a lot of aspects of Jess Goodwin's old sculpt that I think kind of worked a little better. Like the horse looked more like a sickly, pathetic horse, whereas this is a sickly, like huge war horse, which I mean is fine, but it has a
I
much
feel it
different
almost
vibe to it.
puts the focus on the warhorse as opposed to the rider, but the general look of it really reminds me of that classic Frank Frazetta
The
piece.
one of the Death Dealer
Yeah.
images. Yeah, that is very much what I feel, at least in part, was trying to get you to think of.
Yeah. It's fun to see it redesigned, like to have the little sign pointing. There's the little crow is still there.
Yeah, it's good. It's a nice looking model. It'll be plastic too, I assume, so it'll also be easier to assemble.
Yeah, he's
Th-
cool. He's
Though I
cool.
can't help but think if the horse was slightly smaller, I think it would have
Oh yeah,
worked.
actually, come to think of it, you're like, holy shit, that horse is big
Yeah,
compared to the
it's like
dude
a
sitting on
huge
it.
warhorse. Like, how would he even get on that? He would literally need like a ladder or something. Yeah, I feel it's a little off, but I mean, it still looks
I
good.
did like the old one, how it looked like it was on the verge of collapse.
Yeah, it wasn't a strong warhorse or anything. In some
Stefan
marks, it looked
says
more like a sickly pony or something.
Stefan here says that 3D files can't really very well represent like fabric, hair, and things like that. That it ends up looking fairly cartoony. And yeah, that is fair.
Also, the horse's tail, that was the thing that I thought looked the weirdest.
I feel some of this, it's like, and some of the older models maybe did it better in that you just put the the general representation of it there and then let people paint. And because I feel in a lot of cases for some of that texture stuff, painting can probably do it better, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah.
at least there's not like sculpted fire on the model.
It's true.
But yeah,
I think in general they all look good. This little goblin with all the little flying squigs are kind of cute. The face is pretty good.
Yeah.
mhm. It's like pretty good model. It's like it still could they could be better, but they're still fun, I guess. It is funny they have the one like Fire Slayer thing, and like literally there's nothing you could do to make the Fire Slayers look cool.
Well, I mean, it's also very similar to they already had a dwarf slayer that was a plastic one that was made years and years and years ago. That even is pretty much the same pose as this.
That I think looks better. I think because of how the Games Workshop has made their dwarves that are just like an egg with stumpy legs attached, like there's no room to make muscles or make an interesting pose because they like can't move. You
Well, but
know,
I think this one and the other plastic slayer that was released years ago, they do a pretty good job of getting everything in there and making it sort of look like they could move. Though I
I
feel
feel
for
they do the
this
best they
one,
can.
I feel for this one even more so the fact that they're holding hammers. They're just so over the top. It along with the over the top hair that I feel
It's
it
not like
makes all the effort the sculptor put into kind of making the muscles and stuff work for a dwarf. It kind of shields and overshadows all that, so you can't even tell.
yeah. I mean, we probably have to stop this stream relatively soon, but we could briefly talk about the Cities of Sigmar stuff. In that, did you see the one has this little like snail-like creature walking? It's like a snail shell with a horn and two little legs, like very Mordheim, just on the
Mm-hmm.
base walking alongside. Did you see
That's
that?
that's like the best. That's literally the best.
So like I feel Cities of Sigmar
Like
stuff.
a Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
on the base is
I'm
like the
probably
best.
butchering his name, but
I feel the Knights, they look a little busy and weird, which it seems like that's just what Cities of Sigmar is going to be. Like there's some cool stuff there,
Hmm.
but I don't know if they work together that well. With that said, I think there'll be a lot of interesting heads and
I don't know. So
armor
the
and
thing,
things that could
yeah.
be pulled out to do stuff
I don't know.
with.
The thing that strikes me the most, I guess I don't spend a lot of time looking at horses, but these horses just look very wrong to me. Like their heads are very small, and then the rest of it is huge. And I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
maybe
right.
some war horses or something are kind of like that, but
Tiny head, super long legs. Yeah, they look weird. I mean, maybe horses look like this. I don't think so, but
yeah,
possibly.
I don't think they do. I mean, we
I mean, I
grew
guess
up
maybe in Age of Sigmar
near
they do.
a place that had horses.
They didn't look like this.
Yeah, because to me, it's like these heads, the horse heads, look almost very similar in size and scope to like the old plastic horse heads, but the rest of the body is just so much bigger that it just looks wrong. And then what makes it look even worse or even weirder is the kind of interesting broad plated armor on the horse. It's sort of just, it almost makes it look like you could cut off the legs underneath that armor and you wouldn't even need that. There's a very stark change between armor and horse. And
Just looking at some pictures online, like war horses, like are fucking huge.
no, yeah,
But
they are
with that
huge.
said, their heads are also large. So
Yeah.
like I still think maybe it's fine that the horse in general is gigantic, but the fact the head's I think too small. And sure, it's a special Age of Sigmar horse, like I guess, but that is
Well, yeah, I
still
think it
weird.
looks particularly weird. The one with the little walking snail thing. There, the horse is like charging towards you, and like the head is just so small.
Yeah, like in the same post, there's the older knights, like Amateo's version. He won gold with is kind of one of these knights. These look so much to me like Perry Brother miniatures that are closer to like a historical miniature. And the sad thing is, like, they're better looking.
Yeah, I
And they're
think
like,
the big thing about these models is like the little walking snail thing. There are tons of things that will be pulled and used in other places. Like a lot of the weird helmets and stuff, like I think will work on lots of things. This one has
nice to
kind of
have
a
you here,
weird
Johnny.
skull looking thing.
Like, I think a
Oh yeah, they
lot of the
even
cities
show
of
the
Sigmar.
old ones. Oh my god, why did they do that? They shouldn't have they shouldn't
Yeah,
have shown you the old ones because then, though I don't think anyone will see the old ones and think they're better despite the fact that they are.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel they're they could be good for converting stuff, but as a whole, they look kind of weird.
Yeah, they look kind of weird. Yeah, the helmets are cool. I sort of feel like I like some of their axes and stuff I like, but I don't really like them on these models. I feel they're too big, but they might be usable on other things. Often, even some of their shields look pretty good, honestly. Oh,
Yeah, we could talk about the Bretonian little guy. Like he seems kind of fun.
also, yeah,
It,
the little
they still keep
Bretonian
nickel
knight.
and diming us with the
Well,
old world stuff.
but at
Like,
least they're showing some models and not just a 3D render of a sword. Also, this Bretonnian Knight, I think, does a good job of showing this is not a heroically scaled model. Like, they have a big head and, like, relatively short legs. Like, I think, like, honestly, this is what I would like to see on more GW models. The only
the
thing that's
sword's gigantic, but
the sword is big, but it's supposed to be like a Zwei handler or something, and those
yeah.
were
Are
huge.
you sure it's not just his legs are super, super short and he has no torso? And
Could be.
I think it's
Regardless,
pretty
he
good.
looks
Also,
kind of
one
fat.
thing that I thought for a while he was holding both of his arms up, but no, that's just a huge sheath with like a lantern hanging
Oh,
from
it
it.
is.
And he
Damn.
has his other
oh
arm
shit.
down by the
Yeah, I didn't
side,
realize
which
that.
looks cool.
That's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I thought he was holding his hand up, holding the thing.
Yeah, I did too for a little while, but no, I think this is good. I think we've gotten so used to seeing GW models and other models like Infinity models that have more like comic book proportions where with people with super long legs, super long torsos that people aren't used to seeing what a real person looks like. And that is often a relatively large head and
With
sort of
that
short.
said, Games Workshop almost never gives a long torso on any of their models.
Yeah. Okay, so
But
Johnny's just saying, damn, I just realized that he's not wielding a stump with the basket attached. Yeah, I think,
yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know. I
Like,
thought he was
I
holding a head
honestly,
or
I
something.
really
That didn't really
like
look
that
good.
his arm is down by his side there. Like, this is a cool model.
Yeah, I really did think that
But I feel if you dialed back some of the stuff just a little, like all the stuff, the sheath on his back and all the other stuff they're carrying with them, like I think it's
does,
kind of cute that
does the
he's
orc
a
head look like
questing.
Grimgor Ironhide's head?
It kind of does look like that. It's very clear he's supposed to be a questing knight carrying a lot of stuff with him, and I feel you could still get across that notion in a more refined, compact way because he wouldn't be walking around like this. He wouldn't be able to move.
I feel the orc head there like shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, I think there's a chance if this is a plastic model, which I think it is, they might give you the option to have with or without the orc head. I
Do
feel,
you think it's plastic? I don't know.
yeah, I guess we don't necessarily know how they're
Better
doing
be
any of this
fucking
stuff.
plastic.
But
I would guess it's not.
I think
I would guess that they're trying to disappoint us. That they like it's just some resin bullshit. And
to me, it looks based on how some of the detailing and stuff is, it doesn't look like it's resin.
Yeah, I would have
This
guessed that. I don't
in the
think
chat
it's
they say I
resin, but
think they said it was resin. If you
Damn
look
it.
at the one picture
That
where it
sucks.
focuses on the orc head with the sword, and the sword is obviously bent, that to me
Yeah, that
screams resin.
that screams resin, you're right. Well, so yeah. Regardless all of that, I really like this model, and I think with with some modifications you could make it very cool. This Tomb King dude, I feel is fine. His face looks a little weird.
I kind of feel if it was painted not like glowing and stuff, it would look maybe a little better.
Yeah, that sucks that they're resin, but I guess it's fine. I wonder. Yeah, I guess I didn't listen to any of the stuff they were saying, and I
I
also
thought I
didn't.
read
Oh
something
wait.
on one of these things that there it says from prior editions in plastic, resin, and metal.
Okay, so they're really not.
I feel they're going into this like not sure if it's going to be successful.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
They're
they said
not.
there would be no old world starter box. And they would just bring back old plastic kits and some kits in metal. That's interesting. I feel that is certainly a good way to just really
Test the waters.
and have yeah, that's honestly fine. I think it's his face. I think that the teeth,
Yeah,
the teeth are so big.
they are.
I mean, mind you, on the model they'll be small as fuck, but I feel for this being a resin Forge World thing, they could have had teeth that were much smaller and much harder to paint, but they could have done.
Yeah.
They still look good, so I can't really complain too much. Though I wish they looked like this old Tubin King cover, like that. That's what I want to see. That's probably a Karl Kapinski painting. This Bretonnian Knight here is the painting. His head's too small. But that's just
Yeah.
the thing.
I don't know. I feel there's lots that we could talk about Leviathan, but I don't know. Maybe it's getting late. I don't know.
Yeah, we should probably stop pretty soon. Can we talk at least briefly about the Tyranids?
Yeah, I think a general like hot take. I Games Workshop, like before they revealed everything in the box, for some reason they decided to show us the shittiest looking Tyranids.
The Leapers?
Yeah, like the Van Ryn Leaper and the kind of the weird winged Tyranid Prime. Like I feel most of the other models are better looking or more interesting looking, and it seems weird that Games Workshop to get excitement would show the bad looking ones as but
I think that's mostly true. I still would say for such a big overhaul and revamp of the range, it certainly doesn't make me think like, oh, I want to start Tyranids now. I
yeah, the
feel
Necron revamp looks to have been a better version to make better looking models that
it's
are a
like
bit
I think
more splendor
ultimately
and
a lot
weird.
of the stuff is a little forgettable and just I they don't excite me. Like I was excited about the notion that they're bringing back the Screamer Killer, but this wow, it's
I think
sculpted
he looks
well.
pretty good.
It's
Maybe
sculpted
not as
well. It looks
cool
pretty
as
good. It's not I don't love
someone
it.
I saw online that the, a good way to make them like fix the model and make it cooler is just to get rid of its eyes. Like just
That's
sculpt like the
true.
carapace slightly more such that it doesn't have obvious eyes and it becomes a lot more frightening,
That's
which is
true.
true. Because there some of the stuff, the neurogaunts don't appear to
Oh
have
yeah.
eyes, and they're
Those are
cooler
some of the
because of
nicer
it.
ones, the little Neurogaunts.
Well, and the
They're
barb gaunts also don't really, or maybe just the pictures are shit. I
their
can't
heads are
tell, but they
hanging so low.
kind of don't look like they have eyes, and because of that, they look cooler.
Well, they're just weirder looking and creepier, and I feel it's a bigger departure from the Tyranid look, much larger than I was expecting, so I think they're better. I sort of feel like, though, just about all of these Tyranids, I think they're just too big. Like the normal Termagants and normal Gaunts, they're too big. And particularly for a range that just has a huge swath of different sized creatures, this would have been the opportunity for them to really play up that change in scale, where you would have the normal gaunts and stuff, which you need tons of, make them even maybe even
Smaller.
close to like half the
Mhm.
size, and then so when they're standing next to the like the hive tyrants and the all the other stuff, it would look better. It would look more imposing and more interesting, and they would be easier to transport and carry because you probably need a ton of hormigons, a ton of all that other stuff. And now, like these, they're so big that I just don't think it works that well.
Yeah, I don't know. This stuff's all of it looks fine, but nothing really wows me.
Yeah, I feel
Although I
like
am glad some of the newer looking Gaunt-like things don't have eyes because they look
It's a
creepier.
psychophage, I feel like,
It looks like
is
they got one
dumb.
of the big plastic spider models from Age of Sigmar and like added Tyranid smokestacks on it
it
and
also
put
doesn't
in
it
some
look
like
I don't
Dumb mouth shit.
yeah, I don't know what it
yeah,
was called, but didn't the Chaos have this weird spider like mech thing that looked almost exactly like this? It
oh
did.
yeah, it
They
was
did. I don't know what
in
it was called.
maybe the last starter box from the
Yeah.
last edition of 40K.
So
I agree that the plastic Carnifex is great.
yeah.
Stefan says some nice plastic 3D smoke on it as well. Winky face. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks
Oh,
terrible.
God. Why do you do this? Like, it's fine, but it does, yeah, really look like they
Yeah, I
took
honestly
like a
think
3D design they already had and tried to Tyrannidify it, and that's
like I
not
honestly think a lot of the older plastic Tyranid stuff, they could have just taken that, tweaked the scale and sizes of them, and made some of the details a little crisper and more sinister looking, and they would have been perfect.
it's called a Venom Crawler. If you search Venom Crawler, it is
Oh, for
basically it's a Venom Crawler. Um, yeah,
holy shit,
it
it looks
looks
almost
a lot.
exactly the same. Whoa.
Yeah, it,
Yeah,
Mm,
it looks almost exactly the same. Thank you. Thank you for telling us what it was called.
yeah. So that just
That's
sort of is
so
suggestive,
weird.
just being phoned in. Like, take that asset
I
and
think that the Venom Crawler or whatever the Chaos thing was, I think that was pretty neat.
Well,
But
that's
it seems
this
different.
now, like,
why
it's
also like
less neat.
I kind of like the weird creepy teeth maul thing, but then when you look above it, you see kind of a gremlin's comical looking teeth and eyes.
Yeah, it looks like what's his name? That Spawn character, the
Oh,
insect Spawn character. What's
yeah, Debaser or something stupid like
Violator? Violator.
Violator. Yeah, that's
Reminds me of Violator.
it. Yeah, so I
It's
yeah
okay, but
Violator.
It's
yeah,
bad.
there's violators in the chat too.
Yeah, thank you. You know all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
you've
the
got
names.
us covered perfectly. Thank you.
Huh.
Um, yeah, so I don't know. I could see if you were a big Tyranid fan, I could see being excited about the stuff. And I do like how they, for some of the things like these Neurogons, they went in kind of a more unique and interesting direction. I think that's good, but I don't. I think most of the stuff was overall kind of a miss for me. And the things that I wanted to see most for the Tyranids, none of it happened, I guess. And if I would want to do stuff with the Tyranids, I'd be more tempted to just convert my own and like redo a lot of the stuff. Like they need thinner, more sinister eyes. Their teeth can't
The
look
big
like
psychic
this.
thing seems like kind of like a bigger zoanthrope that but dumber looking, and the little floating droids around it look just like nothing. I it's still not terrible, but I wish it was better.
Painting 32 of anything would be a lot. I'd be trying to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
We understand.
The
Yeah,
Screamer
so
Killer looks like its head looks like a predator.
it really does, actually. And I know somewhere there were more pictures of the Screamer Killer, and also its heavy armored carapace on its back. It doesn't continue down the whole length of its body, which I thought looked weird. Yeah, so I don't know. The
There's
stuff's
a new plastic Terminator Captain dude that stupidly is standing on the head of a Screamer Killer.
oh, is that what it's ahead of a
It's just
Screamer
like, don't
Killer?
do this, man. We
Oh
don't
yeah, I
need
think
this.
you're right.
It is.
Don't like that at all.
The model looks okay, but it has the like I'm squatting here pose. Um,
The head's not attached at the right spot. It just doesn't.
yeah.
It really
It's
looks phoned in to me compared to some of the other stuff. But I think they were trying to make it such that you could use it for any chapter and whatnot. And like, there's at least one of the models, this Lieutenant in Phobos armor. Here they actually have some like Tyranid carapace on the shoulder pads and stuff like that. I feel I would have liked to see more of this on the Marines and stuff, which I guess people would have then complained that they can't use it for their Blood Angels army or their Space Wolves or some shit, but
thing I'm since all of these are like snap fit or the majority of them are, I'm worried that when they release a like slightly more multi-part Terminator box, that the poses will be all shit.
it's very
Because like we
possible.
need to make them different from the
Yeah.
snap fit box. So like we have no ideas now, so let's just have them all taking a shit.
Or in their power, yeah, their power metal squatting poses, yeah.
Which I mean, I guess even if that's the case, like we could get some of these and try to convert them to look cooler. Like it's not like we want a lot of these because
Yeah.
that's for playing games, and I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, who are we kidding? We're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think, yeah, we should probably call the stream to a close. We've been, actually, this has been a longer one for a while. I guess there was a lot to talk about, and I'm sure in the coming weeks we will talk more about some of the stuff. But I guess thanks everyone for joining us in the chat tonight. It's been fun. It's been a good time. We will hopefully talk to you again pretty soon. I guess everybody keep on enjoying the hobby. Stay safe, stay healthy. Maybe paint an Oldhammer model if you can find one. But yeah, we'll talk to you again soon. Until next time, over and out.
See you, everybody.
See ya.